Hello Year 5, hope you're all doing well. It's my turn to carry on reading from where Mrs. Collins left off with The Secret Diary of Jane Pinney this week, so let's get going. Good afternoon, Mrs. McNamara, I say, as keeping my eyes down and doing a little courtesy. She looked me up and down and obviously didn't seem too displeased with what she saw. You're a presentable little thing, aren't you? She says. I try to be, Mrs. McNamara, I says, and then I blurt out, and I may be little, but I'm strong. I don't doubt it, she says. What with all the hard work you do for Mrs. Berry, she's given you a most excellent character. She nodded over to a letter on her desk. Most excellent? Good old Mrs. Berry. I like being most excellent. It makes me sound, most excellent. Do you know what I look for in a maid, Jane? Asked Mrs. McNamara. Dirt under the fingernails? I asks. The housekeeper smiled. See, I knew she was a smiler. I mean, do you know what qualities I look for in a maid? She explained. My cheeks reddened. A good Christian and a good worker, I says. She smiled again. Close, she says. I require a girl with high moral standards, complete honesty, cleanliness, good capability, good temper and good health. That's a lot of goods, I thought, but I knew not to say anything. I can see that you're clean, and Mrs. Berry makes it very clear that you're more than capable, and she says that you've only had 1 day off sick in 2 years. Do you have high moral standards? I says me prayers at night, go to church on Sundays, and don't mix with the boys, Mrs. McNamara. I says, which is true. What about your temper? Mrs. Berry's never had cause to complain, I says. I once dropped a coal scuttle on me foot and didn't swear nor get angry neither. This is almost true. I didn't swear out loud, but inside me head, that's another matter. I found myself thinking words I didn't even know that I knew. We talked some more and finally she says, I think you would fit in well here at Lytton House, Jane. Thank you for coming all the way here today. Mrs. Kirby-Trott likes me to meet all prospective employees beforehand, and I have no reason to be in town. I have no idea what prospective employees are, but I do know that Lytton House is the country residence of one Mr. and Mrs. Kirby-Trott. Mary, my friend what works there and recommended me for the job, says that they call it their country residence because they have a house in London too, which they calls their London house, and not their London residence for some reason. It can all get so confusing. She says Mrs. Kirby-Trott's first name is Claire, but she's no idea what Mr. Kirby-Trott's first name is. They have a little boy called Master William, who, at present, is looked after by a nanny called Nanny Brown. When he's older, he'll have a governess or a tutor or something. Mrs. McNamara was still smiling when she said, if you go to the kitchen, one of the girls will give you a cup of tea before you leave here. I will make the final decision in consultation with Mr. Pritchard, and you should hear from us within the next few days. I did another courtesy. Thank you, Mrs. McNamara, I says. And how shall I hear? I shall write to your mistress, she says. Thank you, I says. I knew Mr. Pritchard was the butler, who's kind of overall in charge downstairs, because Mary had told me, but I'd have guessed that anyway. Sure enough, I got my tea and a bun, and that was tasty. I do like a good bun. There were 3 rows of bells lined up along the wall, with labels underneath them. While I was there, one of the bells started jangling, and Mary said that that'd be the mistress ringing for her tea. There's a bell pull in each room that rings a different bell down here, she says. The label tells you which room they belongs to. Mary saw the look of panic in my eyes. There were so many bells, and I'd never learned to read all them labels. Don't worry, Jane, she says. Your job don't have you answering no bells. And she smiled. I gave her a hug. She smelled of polish. I walked all the way home because it was cheaper than the omnibus. I walked home because I didn't have an interview to worry about being late for. I walked because it didn't matter if my dress got dirty this way round. And as I walked, I imagined working in the big house. I'm home now and so want that job and to work in that beautiful house. I'll mention it in my prayers tonight. Day 5. I have the job. The letter arrived by 3rd post. It was addressed to Mrs. Berry. Course, oh course. I can't read properly. And you can't very well address a letter to a pigeon, even if I had told anyone about Plump, which I haven't. It says that I'm to start as soon as it suits Mrs. Berry. I got on with all my usual chores, but couldn't wait to tell Plump when I finally went up to my bed. He flew onto my window ledge soon after and tapped on the glass with his beak. In next to no time, I'll be living and working in Lytton House. Day 12. My last 2 days with Mrs. Berry have been busier than ever, because I've not only been doing all my usual jobs, but I've also been showing Hetty Smith the ropes. Hetty told me a real sad story. She's an orphan and says she went to work for a butcher's wife when she was just 11. And that butcher's wife turned out to be a real cruel mistress. She beat Hetty plenty just because she could. Hetty reckons it was because the butcher used to beat her, so she liked to be able to take it out on someone else. And that someone else was poor little Hetty. She didn't have nowhere to go, and at least she had a roof over her head and some food. But she did look dreadful thin. Hopefully Mrs. Berry and Cook will take pity on her now she's got my job. Day 15. This is it. Here I am at Lytton House. Plump's here too, of course. Or how else would I be writing this? From now on, he's taken up residence. A toff's words for a place where you live. On the window ledge of my new room. He followed me all the way here. He did, keeping an eye on me from the sky. I'll be sleeping up in the attic along with the other servants. I've got the smallest room in the house and it has a tiny round window. I share it with a girl called Minnie. She's younger than me, but she's taller. And she's the scullery maid, which is the lowest of the low. There ain't no one in the house with a more lowly position than what she's got. But, as Plump says, when you're way down low, the only way is up. Of course, he might have been talking about flying, which is a pigeon thing, like beak-ache. I've been given my uniform and strict instructions to look after it good and proper. I know from working for Mrs. Berry that that's easier said than done. I may have my nice white cap and my nice white pinny, and no jokes about my name, please. But that'll soon get dirty with all the scrubbing and dusting and cleaning and carrying. Ash and soot is the worst. It might make more sense to dress as in sacks. Now, I'm dressed for my job. I'm getting to know the house. The basement below the stairs is where all the cooking and washing and such goes on. And there's a servants' hall where we has all our meals and meetings and the like. Then there's the ground floor and the first floor, which is what Mrs. McNamara calls Kirby Trott's reception rooms. The drawing room, library, study and such like. On the third floor is her bedrooms and a bathroom like you would not believe. There's a huge tub to bathe in with all sorts of gleaming taps and levers and things I have never laid eyes on in my life. I thought Mrs. Berry's bath was something. You should see this contraption. If it were my bathroom, I'd never want to leave it. I'd even have my meals in the bathtub. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so next week we'll start on day 16 and see how Jane Penny's getting on her new job at the Kirby Trott's house. All right, see you all soon. Take care. Bye.